Well, we welcome you to Welford Shaker Museum. We make you kindly welcome, as the Shakers would say. And we look forward to hearing you talk about Sanford.
Well, great. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming. I know it's a beautiful summerish day. It's not exactly summery out there, but it'll do. We needed the rain, of course. I'm sure everybody's crops are enjoying the rains we're getting. I want to thank Mary Lee for reaching out. Gosh, months ago. I mean, it was like snow on the ground, I think, when we first started talking about this. And it was funny. I asked before the presentation, they said, why Sanford? Why did you reach out to me? And it was interesting because you said the high school, and you also said the Broadband Initiative, and you said the theme park attraction. So the word's getting out there, which is awesome.
And your 250th anniversary.
And our 250th, as we see, Sanford.
Which we didn't find out until after we invited you.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, so it's Sanford's birthday this year. So we have a long list of events we have planned, and I'll get to those at the end to celebrate that birthday, 250 years. And someone did mention it was Phillipstown before that. And I read the act, if you will, and on its actual birthday, we all got together in Central Park and talked about, you know, the birthday. Had some fireworks, we had the skating rink up. I was supposed to actually dress in this colonial outfit from the time, and I put it on, and I got home, and my daughter said, absolutely not. You can't do this. You will be the laughing stock of the city. I'm begging you, don't do it. So I looked in the mirror, and I said, you're probably right. So I looked like someone that was coming over the hill with a musket or something. And that wasn't going to work out. But again, thank you. You know, it's really difficult for me to come in and just talk about the really positive things. It is, because I grew up in Sanford. I graduated in 1988 from Sanford High School, born in 70 at Goodall Hospital. In the 80s, you know, we enjoyed a much different lifestyle than we have now in Sanford. There were shops and restaurants and a strong economy and things of that nature. Like most kids from Sanford, I graduated, I was gone, I was out of here, right? Never to return. And, so fast forward about, 15 years, my wife and I had 2 little ones and decided, we were living in Merrimack, New Hampshire. We didn't really know anybody, which is a place for us to be. And I worked locally there, and I had an opportunity to work from home, so we could live anywhere, really. So let's go back to Maine. And we started looking around, and we kept coming to Sanford because our family's in Sanford. And we arrived back in Sanford, built a house, and I continued to commute to Nashua, New Hampshire every single day for 5 years. Wow. Nobody knew me. And it was just, I had my life there and my evenings in Sanford, and that was the lifestyle. And that actually ended, and I was able to fully work from home full time, and started really looking around and realized how different the town had become in that time that we were gone. So I just started to get involved on different things. I found myself on the budget committee. Everybody been on a budget committee in their town? That's a lot of fun. It's great times, right? It's just one bad news after the next, and everybody's angry with you, for some reason, because you're going to increase taxes. And but what I found was, boy, we got some challenges here in this town. I really felt we were not on a sustainable path economically. So that was the same year that there was a referendum to turn the town to a city. So this was 2012, I believe it was. So I kind of watched that, and it passed, of course, and there was an interim mayor. I told my wife, I want to get involved even more. I want to be the mayor of Sanford. This is how quickly this happened. And she went, well, you're going to lose for sure. Nobody knows who you are. And let's just forget it. And so I dove in with both feet, ran a campaign, and won amazingly. And here I am. So that's how just little experience I had in sort of politics. Just a guy that is from Sanford that knows there's a problem. Okay. So I'm going to talk about the really good things at the end. I'm going to talk about a few of our challenges, because there's really no sense to give you a sense of why we're doing these things. It's really important to get to understand that there is a reason. We're not just putting up a broadband network, for example, just because it sounds cool and high tech. We need it drastically in Sanford. to change our economy. So we're going to talk about some challenges, and we're going to talk about some strategy, and then we're going to talk about what's going on in Sanford. And small group, if you have questions, comments, spit them out. Don't be shy. I've heard everything. I've been called most things, but yeah.
What's the form of government in Sanford? Are you a part-time mayor or a full-time?
I am. So I'm part-time. It feels a lot like full-time, but I am part-time. The mayor gets $5,000 a year.
Whoopee.
Huh?
Whoopee.
I'm swimming in money. I'm losing money for sure at this point with gas and things of that nature and the hours. I think the mayor, I've put in probably, I'd say 15 to 20 hours every week at least between meetings and events.
So is the mayor, city council, or what is it?
So it's the mayor and the city council. So I run the council meetings. I'm part of the city council.
Yeah.
There's 7 of us in total. I do vote.
Yeah.
Saco, for example, they have a mayor, but he doesn't have a vote unless there's a tie. However they establish that. I do have a vote.
Yeah.
So I run the meetings. I'm the figurehead of the community. I think I've taken the mayor job about as far as it's meant to go. I've gotten deeply involved in some of our economic development initiatives. I've tried to be as hands-on as I can. I have a background in business. I have my MBA. I have I'm in marketing, things of that nature. So I have some things to offer, I think, to the community versus just running meetings. So I've dug in as deeply as I can to try to make change as quickly as possible. I'm not a politician. I don't even like politics. I don't really follow politics. So
How long is your term?
I'm in my second term now. The first term was 3 years, and then it always will be 2 years after that. So the election will always follow a governor or a president campaign. So numbers will be high, and I get that was a pretty good idea actually. So I'm up for re-election this year. Will I run? I don't know. I get asked that question a lot, particularly at my house. It's a ton of work. I have 2 daughters. One just graduated from high school this year. We were supposed to have a graduation party yesterday. Thankfully, pushed up to the following week. And I have a sophomore who's going to be a junior. So we're busy. We have a very busy lifestyle.
So the city councils, that they represent precincts or what?
No, it's at large. It's just we all.
All of them are at large?
Yeah. So let me dive in quickly to the some of the numbers. Some of these you probably assume, and some of them you may find as a surprise. So in virtually every demographic, Sanford's in the wrong direction. Okay, that's high school graduation. That doesn't mean how many kids are graduated from the current high school. That means how many graduates live in Sanford. Okay, so I think the graduation rate at the high school, and James may have a number that I think it's much higher than that. It's well into the 90s, I would think. But 88% graduation rate of the people who are living in Sanford. Okay, bachelor's degree or higher, only 18%. You can see it's Maine, York County, and then where Sanford lies. Okay. One thing that startled me, honestly, and I've thought about this deeply for the last couple of days, is the poverty level. So we're approaching 20% poverty level in Sanford. So how many people totally live in Elford? Any sense? What's the population?
3,000 or so.
3,000, 2,000? So in Sanford, there are 4,000 people living in poverty right now. More than all the inhabitants of Elford. Okay? Huge problem. All right? Household income, we're way off of where York County is. Okay? And you got the coastal communities. I understand
It's not bad.
they throw a wrench. Is not bad, that number? Yeah. And these are median. These are working folks making an income. Median housing values are also well off of the York County average. Okay, yeah. Jody's like, oh no.
It's not good.
It's not good, right?
Yeah.
And the median rent, $790, and that's the main median rent, which is interesting because generally the Section 8 payment on a 2-bedroom apartment is about that. Okay? So we're learning a lot about our demographics. We need to understand where we are before we can actually change it. There's no sense trying to just willy-nilly change something we're not really confident in what we know. Okay? So we've spent years now just dissecting the data. And one of the things that we found really, really interesting is 33% of people living in Sanford live in apartment buildings. Okay, there's a lot of apartment buildings in Sanford. Those apartment buildings account for only 9% of the total property taxes in town. So 33% of the population pays 9% of the taxes, okay? It's an enormous problem. So people wonder why taxes are high in Sanford. Well, that's exactly why, okay? The mix isn't good, all right? So you're like, well, why? How is that possible that you have so many apartment buildings, but they contribute so little in value? So then we started looking at that number, right? We have 1,000 units in Sanford that were built around 1900. Okay, so when the mills opened up, there was massive amounts of apartment buildings built, okay? And there were 2, 3, 4-story apartment buildings, very, very basic structures, quickly put up to account for all the Canadians flooding into the area to work in the mills, right? Those apartment buildings basically still stand. The mills are long gone, those jobs are history, they're not coming back in that regard. We still have all the apartment buildings left behind. So we have some of the lowest priced apartment buildings anywhere in southern Maine, in Sanford, okay? While that's nice in a way for affordable housing, it's also bad because it does attract a certain element of people that are in poverty. They're getting pushed out of areas that are doing really well, York County, right? So as Portland, for example, you hear about the housing crunch in Portland. These people are getting pushed out and they're arriving somewhere. And a lot of those people are arriving in Sanford, Maine, okay? So it's a challenge and we need to address this, and we are. We're working on some housing ordinances. We're working on vacant building licenses. There's a whole new policy in Sanford that every apartment building is being inspected, for example, for public safety type issues. Is there proper egress if there's a fire? Is there smoke detectors in every one of the bedrooms? Things of that nature. We're going in and finding a lot of challenging environments that people live in.
Have you studied what the, let's say, household income or even median home value? If you took the strip, say, from Scarborough down to the New Hampshire border and came inland only 10 miles, seems to me it would be terribly skewed to value along that strip.
It would.
So it doesn't really reflect, it says, yes, York County, but it doesn't really reflect the geography of how York County is laid out.
Right. But I would say you also have this number here, right? That also accounts for Millinocket and the county and places that are in vastly more difficult condition than Sanford, obviously. So probably the Maine average is a more reasonable number to compare. But if you think about the tracts of land and the opportunities that are out there for the northern Maine folks, which are probably less than they are here in Sanford, Maine, something's not right. There's an issue here, particularly where we are geographically. We're in the heart of sort of the economy in Maine, right? We should be much higher than that. And I can tell you back in 2000, in 1990, so back to 1990, our average household incomes were exactly the York County average. Okay, what happened? Sprague Electric closed down, US Optical Disc closed down, Shape closed down. These were, large manufacturing style companies, people working with their hands, people having, some specialized skill putting together, Sprague worked in tantalum capacitors, which is a type of semiconductor you'd find in your phone or the computer. They shipped those jobs all overseas to get cheap labor, right? But those people at Sprague Electric were making good money, and they were good, solid jobs. People were there for decades. All of a sudden, that plant shuts down, and a few others followed. Those jobs and that pay never really followed in Sanford. So we've had decades now of sort of a lower our house. York County's household incomes continue to rise. Ours actually went the opposite direction. So we saw a time for a very long time in the 80s. The shops and the restaurants I talked about, we were exactly the York County average. So we've got some work to do to rebuild our economy. There's no question about it. So this isn't a doom and gloom message. I just wanted to give you a sense of what our challenges are. We've got a few. So what do
I just have a comment.
Yeah.
And I know that you received some pushback from. By the way, are you still considered a weak mayor? Is that still the term?
Yeah.
I hate that term. I just don't like that term because you're anything. I know it doesn't mean weak as in the sense of the word weak, but you guys and your entire team have taken Sanford in a whole different, strong direction, including what you're talking about with the landlords. This is a wonderful final push to get them to pay their fair share.
Right.
And the pushback that you have received from some of them that haven't been up to par, they just haven't been, taking care of their responsibilities as they should have been. The landlords that have been, they don't have a problem with it.
Right.
It's that simple. It comes down to that. But thank you for doing this, because the homeowners are feeling like, wait a minute, we're the ones kind of footing the bill. What about? And you guys addressed it. So
it was a difficult fight in a way. It was unpopular. This housing ordinance I'm talking about. So it's basically a mandatory inspection program. We will inspect your apartment. If you're in the business of apartment rentals, we're considering a business. And just like any other business, there are requirements that we're requesting of you. So we've uncovered a lot already.
Isn't this, you were mentioning earlier, a form of government, and it seems to me that all of your council are at large. So you could be very easily weighted towards just one section of the geography of Sanford, instead of spreading the responsibility and input throughout the entire city limits, or whatever that encompasses. But I know where we live now, it's down south, but there are precincts so that, yes, you do have, you've got a residential area, or you've got some who are really out in the mix of farmland and so forth. But I don't know, I don't think that, it seems to me it'd be easier to get a message across if your charter was different and it had set up a system whereby you established precincts. So you've got representatives from specific areas giving input.
Yeah, it's a great thought. I mean, we're fortunate that we have a pretty mixed group on the council. I think that we represent the cross section of the folks living there, and that's
a happy accident.
It's by accident for sure, but I think
the council.
It's 7 people total. Yeah, but I don't know if it's necessarily an accident. I think that there are neighborhoods that I think push for representation. I think there's areas of town that push for representation, that they find folks to connect with. Sanford, it's big, but it's not big, if you will. Being a local politician is probably a lot like operating a retail store. There's no place for me to hide. I always talk about, boy, it'd be so much easier to be in the state in Augusta, because you've got layers of bureaucracy between me and trying to call someone up there, right? Try to call the governor, for example. You can pick up the phone any time, night or day, and call my cell phone, and I got to pick it up and have a conversation. Whether they didn't pick up your trash, or you think the roads are bad, or whatever it happens to be. So we're extremely accessible, which is kind of an interesting thing. So we hear a lot from the public, which is a good thing, obviously. But no, your point's well taken. I understand that. That's interesting. So what do we do? Go ahead, Tim.
Just real quickly, we're relatively new to Sanford.
7 years.
7 years. But we still hear the distinction between Sanford and Springville.
Yeah.
And that's come up on some things, serving as a citizen representative to the council. Is there, from your mind, any difference there? Like Springville's a little...
So I live in Springvale, and we have a secret meeting twice a week to talk about the folks in Springvale. Yeah, this isn't recorded. We're just, we're buying our time, and then that's it. We're out. To me, it's almost comical in a way that there's parts of Springvale that are really nice. There's parts of Sanford that are really nice.
Exactly.
It's certainly not Sanford and Falmouth, if you will. There's just not that much of a separation in the reality of things. I think the difference between Springvale and Sanford is Springvale has been properly looked at by a few folks. There's folks that really go well above and beyond to maintain the look and feel of Springvale. And there's some big advocates for Springvale. What we don't have is advocates for Sanford, particularly our downtown, okay? We've tried for years, and it's a very difficult situation. It's a very complex problem to solve, where people in Springvale have literally just signed checks and said, we're gonna take care of it ourselves. And I think that could create a feeling of difference, but what I look for, what I'm dying for is an advocate for Sanford.
In your demographics, do you have a breakdown of those of working age and those who are retired?
I have it, it's not here. The working age, it's in the wrong direction as well. I can tell you that the percentage of working age adults in Sanford is like 66%. Okay, the average in Maine is like 68%. Why that is exactly, I would say it has to do with we also lead the pack in those on disability. Okay, so you take the disability folks, they're off the numbers, if you will, as far as available to work. So there's our workforce needs some definite improvement. I don't know if that was where you're going with it.
Well, yeah, I'm just curious the percentage of retirees.
We're old and we're young. So really? Sanford has a lot of retirees and we have a lot of little kids.
Okay.
And generally what's happening is a lot of these little kids go through our school system and they split. So we need guys like James back in the back of the room here to come and help us the next generation. Mm-hmm. I'm usually the youngest person in every room. And I'm not young really. If you look at the folks who are involved around Sanford's government, it's an older crowd for sure. Myself and there's actually, I guess in the council is young, but generally the folks who are of the, how do I say this, the people who really do the heavy lifting in Sanford and raise the funds for this and push for improvements are the senior citizens. I mean, they're really active. We don't hear too much from our younger folks, unfortunately. So we've got some work to do on that end as well. But so as far as, so you've got those challenges demographically, right? And it's not like we go, oh gosh, we give up, that's it, we're done. So some of the things Jody was talking about, we've definitely taken a different approach. We're trying very hard to create a sustainable financial picture for Sanford. Okay, we can't just go and keep going to the taxpayers, for example, and say we need more. So we're basically aligning our spending with our revenue, okay, as best as we can. Does it always work out? No, but I could say taxes are less on the average home right now than they were 5 years when I got here, okay? Which is what's less now than it was 5 years ago, very few things. So we've done a pretty good job towing the line, keeping costs and what the ask is for the taxpayer down. Realign priorities, this is huge. When I got on the council, it seemed like everybody was chasing potholes. Just whatever the fire of the day was, they were after. I'm like, we're never going to accomplish anything with this approach. We have to look at our long-term goals and stick with them because nothing will occur. And to focus on revenue. So how do we bring more money into Sanford to fix our roads, to fix our infrastructure, to apply to the schools? And you invest in amenities. That's how you do that, in infrastructure. We need to attract and retain young people. We need to bring a younger generation to town. The school, huge, right? That's number one. Invest in infrastructure to support our businesses. Broadband, right? And we'll get to all that. Reinvent our economy. Place the focus on innovation. What's different? How can we differentiate Sanford from everybody else? We're competing with Alfred. We're competing with Waterboro and Berwick. That's how I see it. We're all after the same buck. So in Sanford, we have to work harder than most to get that buck. So that's how we've been approaching it. And focus on public-private partnerships. You mentioned the amusement park before, or theme park, or some kind of tourist attraction. I'm sure everybody's heard of that. We've had lots of people come to Sanford about that. We see that Sanford's not going to put up a Ferris wheel. The city isn't. Someone else is going to do that. But we're going to make it as easy as possible for them to do that. And work with whoever wants to develop what it is out there. And I'm confident something will go there. I am. 3 years ago, I wasn't so confident. Now I'm actually more confident than ever that some large-scale tourism-style attraction will go in South Sanford.
Good.
So
Beyond the airport.
there's Sanford. So we're talking about unique attributes that you have to market. Sanford has a tract of land that's almost 1,500 acres, uninterrupted, in southern Maine. It's very rare, and it's about 10 miles from the highway. Also very rare. You can find those tracts of land, but you got to go pretty far north, out in the, off the beaten track to get there.
Yeah.
This is a quick exit off the highway. Boom, you're in 1,500 uninterrupted acres. That's pretty nice. And for a large-scale developer, that I want let's say it's an indoor water park, for example. Well, those generally sit on about 500 acres because there's a golf course and there's different amenities and there's ball fields, and so they need a lot of space. So that's a lot of jobs, it's a lot of tax revenue, things of that nature. So we continue to pursue that angle. Will it occur? I think so. Long term, it will. Maybe I might be old and gray by then, but it will. Trust
Is
me.
the casino going to raise its head again sometime in the future?
I don't know. We haven't communicated really with those folks. They didn't reach out, and we didn't reach out back, so it kind of was easy. I think the casino was had a very specific destination in mind. What my concern with the casino would be is that there's a lot of casinos cropping up. Could have a big empty casino in South Sanford. I'm not sure that's good for anybody.
Is there any chance for the airport to convert to a regional airport?
The Sanford is a regional airport currently. Do you mean a
Private
passenger?
aircraft. No, it's private aircraft.
Yeah. So it's possible, but that isn't the intent. And I'll get to what we're doing at the airport here in a minute, which is the airport is a huge it's a very differentiating factor for us. And some of the things that are occurring there are going to be interesting for a lot of folks. So we're using it to our advantage for sure. So this is the strategy. We pretty well followed this for the last 4 or 5 years, and it's allowed us, and I say us, this isn't, I'm the mayor. There's a huge group. The council's been really supportive, great group of folks. Our city manager's a great guy. Steve Buck, Jim Nyman, our executive growth council. There's a lot of people in the middle of this, all these initiatives that the list is very long. I can't name them all here, but I'm just the person that delivers the message very often.
What about a relationship with the state government?
Yeah, I tell you, the state has been very generous with us, particularly on the school side. They don't write a lot of $100 million checks. So we've got it's a good segue. Let me just get to that slide real quick. We'll get to some of the happy stuff now. All right, so now we're getting into Sanford's future. Okay, where are we going? So I talked about why it's important. These things are so critical to our future. It's really beyond belief. So this is a state-funded $100 million high school. Okay, has anybody been down there?
No.
It's amazing. All right.
It's all state funded?
No. So the local taxpayers, we put out to referendum. We're paying $10 million on top of the $100 million for things like a turf ball field, for example. The football field's a turf field, stadium seating. We added to the auditorium. We have a beautiful auditorium going in this facility. Just some extras that you never get to as a community if you don't do it in the beginning. So I was actually really happy that we decided to go down that road. This is the new wave of state education. This is a high school and regional technical center. So communities from all around of southern Maine are sending their students to this school in addition to us for our technical programs. In addition, the primary change though is you are assigned you choose one of 4 specific pathways. So there's business and marketing, science and technology, human services, or arts and communication. Okay, and within those pathways is very specialized instruction. So the English lesson, for example, if you're in the business and marketing section, could be on writing, business-related papers or reading business-related papers or instructions, things of that nature. So the ideal situation here is that we put out students that could go work at Huzzy Seating or Pratt & Whitney or the shipyard right from here. They have some specialized skills already between the technical programs we have, which are, there's 20 something, dozens of technical programs that really deep dive. And you meet these kids, they know what they're doing. And James in the back is deeply involved with a lot of these technical programs and, video production, things of that nature. They're employable when they leave the school already. So when we have this brand new facility and all these, really deep dive, technical programs, it's going to be amazing for the locals.
So this high school will have your community, it'll be a community high school for your residents of probably Springvale and Sanford. What are the other, surrounding communities that maybe have, thinking up towards Salmon Falls, up that area, that region has a high school. So what do? Certain students will apply to go to this high school, or how does that work out?
It's exactly what they do. So they would apply, for example, let's say they wanted to be involved with culinary arts.
Yeah.
Okay, the culinary arts program is currently housed at Noble High School, just temporarily. That will be brought to Sanford as part of this regional offering, and kids from Noble or Massabesic or you name it can go to Wells or wherever, can come to Sanford and study culinary arts in our.
Will that evolve eventually, like in Massachusetts, they have culinary art programs in vocational schools, but it's also open to the public.
That's exactly right. So we'll have a
So
restaurant.
that'll be happening here. Yeah.
There's gonna be a restaurant. There's gonna be a bank. Yeah, it's gonna be amazing. I mean, it may not all come. May not be open the first day of operation, but we're I had to update the somewhere in opening in October 2018. This until a week ago that said September 2018. Okay, so you may have saw some vandalism at our high school. It is sad, and
They
but
catch those idiots?
not yet, but we will. I get it's one of those things where people
Somebody will brag.
they can't keep their mouth shut. We'll find them.
Keep
And,
them out there.
we've hit a lot of obstacles, or at least since I've been here, you see these obstacles and you just can't look back. You just, move on, push it out of the way and keep going, because it's so much bigger than everybody else's nonsense. And, you just gotta, keep your head down and keep doing your job and push on. And they'll let the police officers and people kind of deal with the rest of it. But, so this is, for us, this is such an enormous transformational element. The current high school was built the year I was born, in 70. It is beyond its useful life as a high school, for sure. There's 26 portables or of that, around that number of outside. It looks like a trailer park outside. So you can imagine a realtor bringing someone into Sanford right now and showing them the Sanford High School. That's not a good look, right? You bring them to this school, which is the biggest in the state's history, and it's beautiful, and there's glass walls. I mean, it's really incredible facility. That's huge. That's the kind of thing that would attract a young family, right? So again, it's about sort of bringing in the right people that want to help invest in the community, and this is a huge win for us. Go ahead.
In the future, how will the cost of sustaining this structure, curriculum, how will it compare with what you're paying now for education?
It's a good question. So with this building, there's so much other work being done, and can you hold that question for 2 slides? Sorry. You're going to see like the dominoes start to fall in the next day. Like there's a lot happening. Trust me on that. So I'll get to that in a second. All right. There we go. So what else are we doing? So broadband. Is anybody familiar with our Broadband Initiative? Okay. So Sanford is going to be rolling out the largest broadband network in the state's history. Okay. So we have the largest high school project in the state's history. We're rolling out the largest broadband network in the state's history. So why is this important? Connectivity is a huge problem, right? Particularly in this area. I don't know how we missed out, but you can go up to Caribou and they have broadband currently there. So for whatever reason in Sanford and this sort of west, we really missed out on some high-tech stuff along the way. We're rolling out 45 miles of fiber optic cable. It's a city-owned network, okay? We're connecting all of what we call anchor institutions. So the hospitals, the schools, there's like 80 businesses that will be hooked up to broadband. And of course that's expandable. If you want to come on into our community and start your business, we'll connect you to broadband too. And we're going from some of the worst internet connectivity to some of the best available anywhere in the country. That's how different it is. So if you have companies, for example, that need to move lots and lots of bandwidth. So imagine if you are Goodall Hospital or Southern Maine Healthcare and you want to send x-rays to Boston. You have to mail them, right? If you have a really large file, there's really no way to push that file from here to there if they're not directly connected. So broadband, that technology would allow you to do that in flash. So it's a keystroke. Okay, it's that kind of bandwidth. So we're going from like a garden hose to like a pipe this big. And we control the network. So we control the rates. So what we're going to see is companies who are paying thousands of dollars now for their connectivity on a subpar system will pay a third of that for a vastly better system. So why do we do that? Because we need to attract businesses to Sanford. And who is in, what kind of businesses utilize broadband? It's like software, it's data warehousing, it's high-tech companies. And those companies pay well. So we talked a little bit about our average household incomes. We need to bring some high-paying jobs to Sanford. So this is going to help do that, but it's also going to relieve some of the pressure on our existing businesses as far as what they're spending on a monthly basis, which is a huge win for us locally. There's lots of technical jargon here that I won't bore you with, but we actually will be starting this within weeks. It's not laying fiber, it's all happening now. So we've been talking about this for 5 years. This is how long I've been working on this. The federal government has given us half the money. We've paid for the other half. It's about $1.5 million to build this network. Actually, a little bit more than that now. So the other part of this is Harvard has a sort of a spin-off called Postgrad, Harvard University, and they found us somehow. And they're doing a study on basically how do you build a business case to string fiber to everybody's house. So Sanford is one of those communities out of 5 in the country that they'll be studying, and they'll be building us a business case to lay fiber to everyone's home. And why would you do that? What it is it allows companies like CMP or the utility, the water district, the sewer district to fine-tune their offering to you. If you're home all day, great, and your power's up, they understand that. So there's going to be fluctuations of resources used throughout various times of the day, for example. If there's a catastrophe, what needs to happen to the grids, things of that nature, and how could you isolate Sanford, Maine in that situation? Fiber to everyone's house allows them to do that. So the benefit to us is we get fiber to everyone's house. They build a business case for themselves that they can market to whoever, but we get the fiber to everyone's house. So that's a huge win. So there's people like myself that work from home everywhere all over the country. Why not go to Sanford, Maine, where there's fiber to your house, if you're a software developer, for example? So that's unheard of. So that's a huge win for us. That's just developing. James in the back.
I imagine this has a tie-in. For the film festival, we show 140 films from all over the world. Some years, 70, I think, is the minimum that we've shown at the festival. I have to download those films overnight. They send them to us, and the internet is so incredibly slow that imagine having to download 140 films from all over the world overnight.
You're up all night, I'm sure.
Just to make sure that
it's key. Doesn't install on you. Right. So it's the way it's the way that the universe is moving. I mean, it's a virtual place we're living in a lot of ways.
It's linked in with this, but does Sanford have some sort of a business development council or a director?
We do. We have the Sanford Regional Economic Growth Council. It's a mouthful, but basically it's myself. There's an executive director. There's a city manager. We all sit on that council, and then there's 4 or 5 other people, including representative from the industrial parks. Just some people that we've pulled in just as private citizens that we seek business opportunities. We have Jim Nyman's the executive director. We point him. He's the point of contact for all sort of economic development that occurs. So there is a person in charge of what we're doing on that side.
And reaching out.
Yeah. So this is good stuff. It's gonna be fascinating. Go ahead. Go on.
Stanford is going to become the transmission of this. They're going to bring it to Sanford. Then will another company distribute this to the, the business?
It's a great question. Yeah. So we work with GWI to light the fiber. We'll string it. We own it. GWI will send out the bills. They will. If someone clips a line, they're out fixing the lines. We don't do that kind of work. Fortunately, but it is our network and it's open access. So GWI can be a provider, but so could Time Warner, so could anybody. So what's going to drive prices down? Right now, we're very limited in Sanford to who we're available to pay money to for services. This is open access. Anybody really could come in and compete with GWI as well. They've been a great partner. We talk about the public-private partnerships. They've been a great partner through this whole ordeal, this journey to get to broadband. So they're a solid partner as we speak right now. But again, there'll be other people that crop up, other companies that crop up for sure. Do you have a question in the back?
Will this eventually start going out into the community so that like this little hill where we're not even noted for service, I wouldn't have to use a hotspot.
Well, everything's got a price, right? No.
Right, but I mean, it will eventually move out into the community to others, or will it stay only in Sanford?
I don't think we've looked that far beyond, to be honest.
Okay.
We know that right now we're paying all of it. We know that we have a dire need for this. I've been an advocate for. Not to exclude anybody, but we need to create some differentiating factors for Sanford. Mm-hmm. There was a time, for example, that Kennybunk was in this Post Road Foundation with us, and I think small town politics removed them. They couldn't make decisions quickly enough, and Post Road said, "We're done." I didn't like that idea, to be honest. My job is to make sure Sanford's progressing.
Right.
So. Are we a good community partner? I believe we are, as far as the regional folks. And I think that long term, I'm sure there's going to be benefit. I'm sure there's things we can do. Short term, we need the return on investment in this thing ASAP.
I know you still have a lot to get to, but two things. Is November 18 a pretty firm date to be online?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, particularly where we're hitting the ground already. We're about to lay cable. I mean, we're down the road for sure.
Awesome.
So yeah.
And do you happen to know what the other communities are, the other 5?
It's funny because they're all in different scale. There's one in northern Maine that I think it's like an island community. They have some fiber running there somehow, and they have a very specific model they're using it for, and they're studying that. There's one like North Carolina. So they're dispersed all over the place. Yeah. So we're very fortunate that we made that connection. And Steve Buck, our city manager, has just been hours and hours and hours dealing with this. I mean, it's just been endless.
Real quickly, not to put you on the spot,
but
we're out kind of in the outskirts of Mount Hope. Will there be connection there as soon as it starts, or will it take time to get to all the outlying areas?
Yeah, the initial phase is the business communities. There's no question.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the post road element would allow for, and I live out in the outskirts too, but allow me and you and folks like that to have everybody, all houses would be wired. We're talking about, now could you do a wireless community, for example? So the whole community is a hotspot. There's a lot you can do when you have fibers strung throughout your community.
The library.
So the answer is I'm not sure how long it's going to take, but it'll happen eventually for sure. Why is this important too is that we for years talked about some sort of east-west highway or a spur from 95 into Sanford. That's not going to happen. People have been talking about that for 20 years, 30 years. It's just not feasible. There was a study that took years and years and years that talked about improvements on 111 from basically the Biddeford exit to Rochester, and basically found that no, it wasn't required. So just keep it the way it is. So this is our super highway. This is the highway for Sanford. You don't need to go anywhere to enjoy this network, and that's partly why it's a differentiating factor again. All right. Where's my
Cote doesn't want an interstate exit to them, so.
We'll take it, but it's just not going to happen. So the airport. Someone mentioned the airport. So what's happening at the airport? So we're about to roll out the state's largest solar project. There's going to be 176,000 solar panels on our airport. 176,000. That's a lot, right? So it'll be the biggest solar array in Maine. It'll be the biggest solar array on an airport anywhere in the U.S. And you can imagine the complications of trying to put a solar farm on an airport with the glint and the glare. And you know, there's been a lot of FAA communication. There's been a lot of environmental communications here. But we're basically through the red tape. This is a 2018 project. We'll start to see panels on the ground in the fall, and all of a sudden there's going to be a lot of them. so you can imagine the size of this thing. How many acres is it? It says it up here. 390 acres of solar panels. Okay, and enough to generate power for 20,000 homes, and that's a lot. So why is that important to Sanford? Well, in the state's infinite wisdom, we actually don't use this energy in Maine. This energy is already sold to an out-of-state entity. Okay, we couldn't legally sell this product in Maine right now. So it's for a different discussion, a different meeting. But so this power is being sold out of state. Okay, it'll generate some jobs, a few. That's fine. The construction jobs to put this up will be a lot. But what's the benefit to Sanford? Well, the personal property tax associated with a project like this is huge. So we, of course, tax the value of anything produced like this in municipalities, and we're talking about well over $1 million worth of new tax revenue to Sanford. It'll be a lot more than that, I think, but I don't want to throw too many numbers out in speculation, but it's in the $1.5 million, $2 million range, depending on what the final number of panels are. So to have an injection of a few $1 million in tax revenue in your community is huge. It's a lot for us. So that's what's happening at the airport. Our airport actually is there's only 2 in the state that operate with positive cash flow. We're one of them because of this. They rent space from us. They rent the land. We have an amazing airport manager, Allison Rogers, who is just a dynamo. She gets things done. She makes things happen for us, and it's just huge transformation at the airport. It's the busiest airport in the state, by the way, takeoffs and landings. So there's yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so there's a ton of activity there all day long. Just a lot of takeoffs and touchdowns, and in the summertime you'll see all the jets with people going off to the coast and things of that nature. But it's an extremely busy place. That whole area is it's somewhat hidden from view. There's businesses upon businesses out in the business park and across the street, and a lot of people don't even know they exist. And we'll get to them in a minute. Well, they're cranking. I mean, they're doing great. So it's a really healthy economy, let's say, in and around the airport right now. And this is only going to help.
Is that airport set up for full instrument landings and so forth? Do you know?
I don't know. I assume so, but
we have a regional
I
airport.
would say yes, for sure.
It's an airport that it's a what do they call it? Basically, if there's some catastrophe and people need to land large jets, they can do it in Sanford. And they picked us partly because the weather conditions are always fair here.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of fog. You get the coastal fog, that kind of thing. We're in such a spot there that we're geographically attractive in that capacity, I guess. So.
Isn't that where Air Force One used to fly into?
Yeah.
Bushes?
Yeah. So I guess I would answer your question.
Yeah.
All right, so that is the broadband. No, that was right. That's the solar. Okay, so we talked about
Broadband and solar.
schools. So not only are we getting $110 million high school project, we're actually getting an additional $43 million from the state to renovate our elementary schools. So you talked about cost savings, operational cost savings. So we are taking 5 elementary schools, basically, 5 schools, and bringing them down to 3. Okay, we're closing Willard School, which was one of the original high schools in Sanford for a long time, sort of on Main Street. That's where my father graduated from, that little Willard School next to the Memorial Gym. That'll be closing. There's Lafayette School, which is it's on our east side. It's like a community school. It looks like it's from the movies, like A Christmas Story. It's from a different era, if you will. It's a quaint place, but it operationally costs us a lot of money to keep that little school going. And as Willard's the same way. So we're shutting 2 very inefficient schools. We're putting a major expansion on what we call Margaret Chase Smith School, doubling the size of that school. We're creating it. So basically there's going to be a north, south, and central elementary school. Okay, each one. They're all about the same size at the end of the day. So there's going to be lots of moving parts. Our current high school is going to be transformed into a middle school. So grades 5 through 8 will all be at what's the current high school. That's having a major redevelopment as well. Go in there and rehab that building and make that up to standards.
What percentage of high school students get bused?
Oh gosh, do you have that number, James?
And by reason of asking that is because we're in a rural area.
Yeah.
And there was one little boy who was just outside the town, sat on a bus for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Because he had to go through all the high school and all the elementary schools.
Is this in Sanford?
No.
Oh, okay.
Before he could go to K.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have that number in front of me, honestly.
All right.
I think it's a fair amount. I know at the elementary schools, there's a lot of buses cruising around. We have a big geographic area to cover. Sanford's a large place.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, you can't believe sometimes you're still in Sanford as you drive away. But this north, central, south approach will probably alleviate some of that, reduce the number of schools, the number of stops.
Yeah.
So $43 million of new improvements to K through 8, if you look at it that way. So there's another tool we can have to attract young families to Sanford for sure. I'm not going to go through all. There's a lot there. I'm glad I'm not in charge of this because there's a lot of moving parts here that because you think about it, the delay of the high school. Right, even a month or 2, that's a delay also in the current high school being taken over by a contractor. And then that's a delay of kids moving out of Margaret Chase Smith. So it's hugely impactful. So some people go in and vandalize a school. It's not that isolated. That problem trickles down everywhere. So, think about that in that respect. Go ahead.
You're doing all these things, but one of the programs that you stopped this year, and I understand because of the school, but I hope you will consider putting back in the after-school program, which keeps latchkey kids in the schools with different programs. I've seen the benefits of this in Dover, and I have volunteered in your schools with Lily. And I think it's something that needs to, if you're going to have all these people coming into town, many of these families will be working families, and nobody will be home for them at 3 o'clock. And I just hope that the powers that be will reinstitute that program. There are government funds for this, there are private funds for it, and this year, I guess it was this year that it was stopped. And it's something I really do see as a benefit, especially if you're attracting all these young people and they will need somebody to babysit their kiddos from 3 until 5 o'clock.
Right. So you're talking about Kids Club, I believe we call it.
Well, I don't know I don't remember what you called it. I just know Lily and I went in and I increased it from one day a month to several times, so that kiddos could read to her. And I saw kiddos that would have been home doing nothing and getting into trouble.
Right.
And I think it is something I hope the powers that be will reinstitute it.
So we've been pretty, how do I say this? We've drawn a pretty fine line, not a fine line, a very clear line between the schools and what they do with their money in the city, what we do with our money, and that's different than it probably was before I got here. I encouraged us as a budget committee and as a council to say, here's your money. You spend it however you want. And we don't really get involved with what you cut, what you add, things of that nature. I can certainly bring that back.
Well, you're bringing in all these.
Right. No, I understand your point. I'm just saying,
And
you know.
I'm just asking you to
Right.
encourage
Yeah.
them, help them in any way they need help to reinstitute it, that's all.
Okay. So James, we got it. All right. Any questions around the school consolidations? And so this is a ton of work, and this is years in the making, and this is years of to be. You know, it's going to be coming up, and there's going to be a lot of moving parts there.
Amazing amount of jobs to be created there.
Absolutely.
And a good feed into the high school, you know. with-
Yeah. I mean, you know, ultimately we're going to have brand new schools K through 12.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You know, we're very fortunate, particularly when you look at, you know, communities like, you know, I know Kennebunk paid a lot for, they took on a lot locally for their school improvements, things of that nature. So we're in for $10 million for complete rehabs of all of our schools. That's it's unheard of.
Yeah.
I hear about Sanford Hospital a lot. I do want to put it up here. You know, we work closely with Southern Maine Healthcare. They've made big improvements and a lot of investments here in our Sanford campus. You know, is it the classic Goodall model of a hospital where you stay for a week after you've had your surgery? No, it's not. This is there's a lot of day surgeries. There's a lot of procedures. There's testing and things of that nature. What they've communicated to us on this basically is that that's the nature of medicine these days. The overnight stays and big problems like that generally are sent to regional facilities like the one in Biddeford or Portland. It's a shame, but it's the times we're living in. This facility, when it was Goodall, was bleeding money. We're very fortunate that Southern Maine Healthcare actually came in and purchased and worked with them to save it. So I think this facility has a bright future now. I think that, some of the growing pains have occurred, and now we're going in the right direction. But they just opened a walk-in clinic, which I was in recently. In and out, it was amazing. So it was a really good experience. That's a brand new walk-in clinic. Are you familiar? We have a cancer center in Maine, in Sanford. Anybody familiar with that? It's a beautiful facility. They just invested $3 million into that facility. The people who I've talked to that are going there or being connected with it, just really high praise. So we're excited about their continued investment and partnership with us there. And York Hospital actually just built a walk-in clinic in Sanford, which is an amazing building. Again, I've been in there too.
Is there
I gotta stay out of trouble.
Are they thinking about, I don't know what the utilization of square footage is there now, but they thinking about a rehab center, overnight rehab or anything like that?
I don't know.
Transitioning from, say, Biddeford or down there.
Yeah, they're I think there's an impression by particularly the population that the city can tell these guys what to do. They're a private business. They tell us what they plan to do. It's not the other way around. We can certainly help work with them and reduce obstacles and be a partner for them, but we're not going to mandate to anybody in this business what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. It's not in their business model, unfortunately. So I'm glad that they continue to invest in us in Sanford's campus. I think we're in the trajectory up now after some years of uncertainty.
Is this a nonprofit or a for-profit? Do you know?
Maine Health? I don't know. To be honest.
For-profit.
I would think it'd be for-profit. Yeah. So, and also we have in Life Flight actually is housed in our airport as well. So looking at building a permanent building there. I don't know if you've ever heard the helicopter take off, and it's nice having it right here in Sanford. And you can get to Sanford or in this general area from our area to Maine Med in a hurry on Life Flight. So it's saved a bunch of lives already. So I won't talk in detail about every one of these things, but those are our major foundational things we're working on: the high schools, the elementary schools, broadband, solar. But there's a lot of other things happening. We have a number of businesses that are in the middle of $1 million expansions on their plants. I mean, it's just when people say there's no jobs around here, they haven't looked. These people can't find enough employees. So we're hiring like crazy in Sanford. Has anybody driven down Main Street lately?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mess, right?
Right.
Yep.
Unitel is laying gas line
Oh, yeah.
right down on Main Street. Some of the spurs out in the communities. Again, a lot of communities have had gas for decades, and we're just getting it. But I think it's coming at an interesting time where we're getting a lot of things right now. So natural gas. I think as a business owner, you're worried about energy costs, things of that nature. This is that major checkbox for us. We just had the St. Ignatius Church and school redeveloped. I don't know if anybody's seen that project. That's downtown. So people who might have gone to high school there a long time ago are now able to live there. It's a senior living community. It's really beautiful. They've done an amazing job. Marland Hall, which is on our Nassau College campus, that's going through a redevelopment. That again will be senior living. Another great project. York County Community College has a presence now in Sanford. They're investing in a new building. So we have our precision manufacturing program down there, or they do. So kids are going right out of this program and going right into Pratt & Whitney or the shipyard and going into great paying jobs. So that's been a big success. The YMCA has just had an incredible redevelopment and expansion there. So Southern Maine Healthcare is working with YMCA on a number of things, but it includes a sports performance center. So the offerings in the building and the structure of the YMCA are just totally different than they were just a few years ago.
What?
And the EPA has agreed to pay for so you saw the mill fire last year this time, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to work with us to take that back tower down. Okay, so that the burnt tower will be gone, by the fall, and get that out of the way. And we talk a lot to developers about these mills. There's a lot to work with. We have about 1 million square feet of mill space in Sanford still, which is just enormous, right? Some of these are suitable for housing. Some of them will be more difficult. This one, I think, is a housing kind of mill. Despite its recent past, I think there's interest here. So I'd love to see that mill get developed and turn into apartments. It'd be a beautiful view overlooking Number One Pond. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that in the near future. So those are some of the things. There's a lot. All right. So it's our 250th. It's our birthday, Sanford. So we're doing some celebrating. We already, like I had, we had our kickoff February, March. It was cold back then. So we're having the 4th of July parade coming up. There's an antique bicycle element, which is going to be kind of cool this year. Barn dance up in McDougal's Orchards. Everybody's been there. They got that big barn. We're going to do a barn dance on July 20th. There's a 17th and 18th of August for evening and next day. So it's the car show and block party, followed by a brew fest at Goodall Park. So there's something for everybody there. Quilt show coming up. I don't know if James is excited about that.
Oh yeah.
The Great Pumpkin Festival, which is 3rd year now, I believe, with Lumber Jill show. So I guess women with chainsaws or something. But Pumpkin Regatta, September 29th. Finally, the new school will be open, fingers crossed, on the 29th of September for the big entry into the school. And the Sanford International Film Festival, 4th year?
5th year.
5th year.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't know this. So James and I have a past. So I got an email from James in the evening, 11 o'clock at night, said, "What do you think about Sanford having an international film festival?" And I'd never seen this guy in my life. I just got his email and his signature. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So how long did it take us? About 6 weeks?
Yeah.
It wasn't even. Yeah. So we hit it gangbusters. We went from nothing to something in the shortest amount of time you've ever seen. And we went in and cleaned the City Hall auditorium. A lot of people didn't even know it existed.
Yeah.
We were in there with shovels and rakes pulling junk and debris out of that place. We transformed that place, absolutely. We found ourselves on television and the radio, and we went crazy. We got this thing off the ground, and I disappeared, and James has run with it and done an amazing job keeping that thing going and stronger than ever. So it keeps getting bigger every year. So the International Film Festival.
You're skipping a part, Tom.
What's that?
You kind of like scammed your way through in a good way. Didn't you steal it from like Lewiston or so?
Well, they had some kind of problem up there.
They had an issue.
They had an issue.
Issue with the director.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was falling to pieces, and James said, "Hey, there's a void we need to fill."
It was perfect.
And we did jump on it. And we had a limited amount of time, and it was pretty awesome. I got to tell you, it was a lot of fun, and they're doing a great job since, and it's evolved a lot. So
Big moneymaker too.
kudos to James and the team.
It's wild. Every year we get people flying in from different countries all over the world.
Really?
Yeah, we finalized things with a gala. Where we're going to have that thing? At the Performing Arts Center in January timeframe. So that'll be that. So a big year of celebrating for us, and something for everybody. We'd love to have everybody join us in some or all these events. And finally,
Does Sanford have a community center?
well, we have a couple different things. There's a Trafton Community Center. Senior citizens generally would go there, and I don't have all the programming around, but that's a really highly used and
Is that near the library?
it is,
No,
yeah,
that's
very
cool.
popular place. I mean,
It's amazing.
yeah, so they have a lot of programming there. It's great. Nassau, on the other side of town, the old Nassau College, Nassau Community Center, they have some programming there as well. Sanford itself, the city doesn't run a community center, things of that nature, but there are offerings around from other, YMCA does some youth stuff, so it seems to be there's something for everybody, but there's always more you can do. You know? So I just left you with this. There's a clear business case for the building, resilience, and capacity of local communities, businesses, and institutions because a peaceful, educated, and productive population will stimulate economic growth in the long term. So we keep building, we keep offering. There's no history lessons going on. Sanford I look at it as a blank canvas, and we're just doing our best to create that environment where people want to live and have fun and enjoy themselves. So there's a lot of work to do, but I hope we showed you some things today that we're on the right direction. And
Very good.
Thank you. I appreciate it. What's that?
We had no idea you had so much to tell us.
I had a lot to tell you, right? So yeah. Any other final questions? Anything?
Does Sanford have an active, not responding, but an active area development person that goes out and visits with other areas to really actively pursue possible?
That would be your executive
It
director.
would. It'd be the executive director of the Regional Economic Growth Council, Mr. Jim Nyman, and I can connect you. But it's interesting. We do talk a lot about that. How do we market ourselves to the outside world, for example? The broadband. If we hook up our 100 or so businesses in Sanford, and even if we get every person connected to broadband, I say we failed. Okay. We need to bring in new businesses, new people. It'd be very nice to accommodate our locals, but we need a whole bunch of new locals to move in for us to really see the return on investment in that. We work with, what's his name, Charlie Kogan, the economist. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's from the University of Maine. He puts out numbers, and they're tens of millions of dollars for a return on investment of a system like that. So we should see some interest for sure from the outside world, but it's how do they even know we exist? So we need to do some marketing. We need to go bang on some doors. I'd love to drag some of those 128 belt style companies up to Sanford, or some of their employees. That would be ideal. You could sell your
The
little
school system's going to be dependent on that.
What's that?
Your school system is going to have
They will
sell
absolutely.
that.
Yeah. So you can imagine you're coming to a community that has reasonably priced houses. You've got a brand new school system all the way through. You've got, a lot of amenities that people would expect. You've got the beach, you've got the mountains, you have Portland, Maine. There's a lot, we're geographically in a pretty nice area. So there's a lot to offer folks from away, if you will. It's just a matter of you need to go get them and yank them up here.
So how many, the auditorium that's going up at the high school, how many seat auditorium is it going to be?
800 and change? Is that 700 something?
I think it's in the mid-8s.
Yeah, it kind of changes with the design. That's why I don't have an exact number. Yeah. It's huge. Yeah.
That's big.
So we've hired a manager to run that whole organization, to book acts. We're expecting that we're going to be able to provide entertainment to the folks in this area. Not just marching band stuff. I mean, to bring in regional and national acts
So it's
to
going to have a
Sanford.
full computerized stage system.
Oh yeah,
and-
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Full
It's,
theater.
yeah. It's going to be
I've
beautiful.
seen the tech specs. It's pretty impressive
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
Really? Great.
So when do we get a chance to visit the school?
It'll be in the fall for sure, assuming schedules align.
Yeah.
There'll be an open house and things of that nature, and the big sort of grand opening, and so you'll be able to take a look around, and so it's pretty awesome.
Good.
But I can tell you, the kids are going to be skinny because it takes a very long time to walk from one end of that building to the other. So, and I'm not kidding. It's far. It's a huge building. It's enormous. People are going to be shocked, I think, when they drive down Alumni Drive, which we're calling the entranceway, and see that beautiful school and how big it is, and the brand new turf field with stadium-sized seating, and it's something else.
Who's
So,
the architect on that?
that one is that Hutter. I always get them confused. I
That's
believe
a
it's,
construction
yeah.
company. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
the Valley Brensler.
I think that's it.
I'm butchering these. We'll cut that from the tape.
The other day, there was a fire in that area.
There was a fire inside the school.
No, this,
Yeah. Oh, this is a different thing?
there was something burning in back. Last week sometime.
Yeah, last week we were going to the,
There was maybe the burning debris out back. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
The smoke. It was-
Yeah. Well, we'll keep it out of schools, hopefully. So, okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.